it's your boy Ancient Albatross here again with the Cypher Unlimited crew. We have our usual suspects of AD or Alpha Dean. We have Spigs 18 or Anthony. And Dean, what are we doing here today?
Well, hey, it's one of those nights where we got one of our good friends in, from MCG, none other than Charles M. Ryan, the COO of MC Game or Money Cook Games. This guy's been in the business for 25 plus years. He's written, he's developed games. He's been in the miniatures. He's in the, just all the way around. Um, he's also served as a global brand manager for Dungeons and Dragons, headed up marketing departments at UK's is as
It's Devium.
Devium
Mm-hmm.
as Devium Games.
It's Devium.
You
Yep.
know, without further ado, Charles Ryan, welcome as usual. Always good to have you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Glad to be here.
So
Hey Charles, welcome back. Your second time you're quickly
Mhm.
catching up to Sean as our most viewed guest, most returning guest. So we're so happy to have you back on the CU.
Happy to come here. Always happy.
Yeah. Um, we're gonna jump right into it because the Heroes of Cypher system has 45 hours to go,
Hmm.
and we're fast approaching. We're about 4K away from the next stretch goal.
Yep.
So
Yep.
let's jump right into with MCG having a few days left on the Kickstarter. Can you tell our audience a little bit about the project and
Hmm.
why did you guys choose to tackle the super genre in Cypher?
Yeah, that's a great question. And it's worth pointing out it's a relatively small Kickstarter for us because it is a narrow topic. It's probably the narrowest topic we've ever done a Kickstarter on, unless you look at something highly specialized like No Thank You Evil or something like that, or like the Numenera box set or something that was like one very specific product. Um, you know, we did it in part because it's something that fans have asked for. A lot of Cypher fans have asked for the supers to be one of the genres that we take on in a bigger way than we have, um, but also because God, it's 2020. Like, who doesn't need a few stories that are about owning things for the good guys, being able to step in there and just whatever punch a Nazi or rescue some people from a a hurricane or something good and positive and strong and that just lets us all feel like heroes in what is just without question sort of a dark time for almost all of us.
Yeah, most
yeah,
definitely. We're all super excited about it. Like, aside from the spreading that positivity during a time of darkness, as seeing on the server on the Cyber Unlimited Discord and just talking to other people, supers is one of those settings that's like we've been dying for a book for. Like, especially Dean down here, he can tell you all about. But yeah, we're all so excited for this
Yeah, yeah.
Kickstarter to drop to come out.
Yeah, we knew you guys in particular, Dean in particular, were going to be very excited when we started to pencil in our plans for this.
yeah. I was at work when the Kickstarter started, and you should have seen me like looking at my lead on my line. I'm like, look, I'm taking break at 10 o'clock. I don't hear nothing else. And he's like, but you know, so it
So
was great.
so the Heroes of Cypher system already has 3 books in place with the
Mhm.
stretch goals. Can you
Right.
explain the differences between the settings in Claim the Sky and the Origin books, and how does first responders connect them or connect
Okay.
to them?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So, Claim the Sky does for superheroes what Stay Alive does for horror, or Godforsaken does for fantasy, in the sense that it treats the whole genre very broadly and like looks at every different way you can do it. Like if you think about Stay Alive and how it really talked about not just whatever vampire horror or zombie apocalypse stuff. It talked about all the broad spectrum of stuff you can do in the horror genre, but then it also goes deep, right? It gives you special rules to get the effects that you want to be able to do the things you want to do, and you can then sort of put that together however you want. And then of course it has its own campaign setting. So Claim the Sky has that as well. It treats the entire breadth of the superhero genre From the grittiest to the most over the top, from Silver Age comics to Marvel Universe movies and everything in between, right? And it lets you do all of that, and it gives you all the tools, and it talks about all of those things. And then it has the boundless setting, which is a superhero setting, um, not unlike something like The Incredibles or the Marvel Universe or something like that, a setting where superheroes are real in that world and people expect it. What's that up in the sky, right? That sort of type of world. Um, and that gives you one area that you could play in the same way that Godforsaken gives you the Godforsaken lands as one thing you could do with fantasy, even though the book itself covers all the genres of fantasy. So that's Claim the Sky, and that's sort of like the corest book of this series. It's the one that is the big 224-page hardcover with a poster map now that we've upgraded it, that matches the spec of those other white books. So you could put it right alongside Stay Alive and We're All Mad Here, and those 5 books will look great together with this addition to that sort of line. Now, when you look at Origin, it's a slightly more modest. We are just closing in on upgrading it, but not quite to the same scope that Claim the Sky is. And it's about a specific setting. So it's about a setting where the superheroes are not super heroic. They're not common. They're not seen very often. It's more about like what looks like the normal world, and people are gaining powers and figuring out what to use them as, or how to use them, and which side of things that they're on. So it's more like rats. There's a TV show on just recently on Netflix, I think.
Project Power.
I think Project Power, yeah. So it's got a bit more of that sort of feel to it, where all of the people that are gaining powers, that's all happening sort of in an underground type of fashion. And then you've got government agencies that are interested in catching or studying or working with the people that have these powers. You have foreign agencies, you have private entities, all of which the player characters would need to figure out how they're going to interact with. And there was an article that we posted on the website last week, I think, that had it was like an interaction on message boards, that people were sort of accessing through the dark web to get to, who have these powers, and it kind of gives you a sense of the flavor. So First Responders is yet a third beast, and it's kind of the furthest from these guys, because it's a totally different flavor of hero. First Responders is absolutely inspired by the real world heroes, right? So the PCs in First Responders, in a game, using what you get in that book, they're going to be characters. They're going to be firefighters and search and rescue personnel and emergency workers, paramedics, logistics specialists. It could be a wide range of things. You would not be way off base if you thought of First Responders as kind of like Pandemic, the board game, as an RPG, right? Like, so your campaign or your game in First Responders is going to be about battling massive, like possibly globe spanning or certainly regional, large scale disasters and resolving them through your resources. I think the things that makes First Responders most unique, in addition to all of that and providing all the specialized rules and equipment and character options that will help you build those kinds of characters, is the fact that, first of all, we don't actually anticipate that you see very much violence in a First Responders game, right? There'll be lots of tension and conflict resolution and tight scenes and things that are like really gripping, but they're not going to be because are you going to kill that bad guy? Instead, it's going to be how you're overcoming a really serious and life-threatening situation. I think somebody, maybe it was in the Kickstarter comments, or maybe I saw it someplace else, somebody said like it would be kind of fun to run like a Poseidon Adventure type of a thing. If you remember that movie about this cruise ship that flips upside down and all the people have to make their way through it, like any kind of disaster movie, like that sort of thing. Again, those aren't about the gunplay. They're about, other obstacles and the ticking clock and the dangers and everything else. And then one element of First Responders that I think is exciting to anybody is the fact that we're going to create these, or Monte has created and is working on this scope of set of rules that let you build an entire adventure or campaign around some massive challenge, right? Where you're, like a hurricane is sweeping through a region and it's on the PCs to like make the death toll be as low as possible, right? So what are the things that they're going to do to take that on? And so you have different goals that you do and different objectives, and you're all working together in different ways to make that happen. And those rules you could apply to anything, right? That doesn't have to be a hurricane. That could be a kaiju attacking San Francisco. That could be, I mean, you could bring it into Numenera, and it could be some giant living city that's coming up out of the crust of the earth and you know, crushing towns and villages as it goes. You could do anything with that. But the idea is that it will give you a framework to build entire adventures or even campaigns around stopping some huge event or mitigating some huge dangerous event.
That sounds completely awesome.
Yeah, I think there's going to be a lot to take from that book.
Well, like I said, I was thinking about like doing a Doctors Without Borders type deal, you know, and you know, we do Outbreak.
Yep, absolutely.
I view First Responders as the ultimate toolkit book, almost similar to what D20 Modern did for the D&D fans in the 90s wanting to tell modern stories. This is going to be Cypher's book of no matter what genre I'm running, I'm going to be able to utilize this book some way, somehow. Absolutely. There's going to be something I could use from it.
I think that's absolutely true. Absolutely, yeah.
The ultimate plug and play material.
Yeah. So, and also, I think it's really smart that are you releasing the, you know, Claim the Sky as a toolkit book like your other books? Yep. Because the superhero genre is just chock full of subgenres similar to horror. So, you know, I think that was like an ingenious way of, you know, going about doing a supers book. Because, you know, we want powers, we want abilities. And, you know, a lot of times if you focus solely on the setting, it eats up a lot of the page count, you know?
Agreed. I agree 100%. And you know, when you look at something like, you know, if you look at something like fairy tales, for example, there's certainly a lot of variation in what goes on in fairy tales, but it doesn't feel like, to most people, like that's a huge genre with lots of different things. You see it more in fantasy, and definitely more in horror. Like in fantasy, you can be looking, you know, for Godforsaken, whether it's swords and sorcery or gritty fantasy, or, you know, stuff like Terry Pratchett that's got humor elements in it, like, or even Harry Potter, you know, all these different ways that you can approach fantasy. And then you get to stay alive, and, like, you know, horror is just all over the map. You can do all kinds of stuff. And so we really wanted to take that approach with supers and recognize that it's not one supers game, because everybody who loves supers may love something different about it.
Yeah. And I love it in all its myriad forms. So, you know, I'm just, you know, I'm going to mainline that book. Don't even worry about it, you know. And the playtest material, you know.
Rocking.
Yeah. So, you know, I'm going to stop geeking out on A Claim the Sky, because we'll get back to that. But I'm going to geek out a little bit more anyway, because we're going to talk about Godforsaken. You know, just released. Loving the book. The book is excellent. You know, but now we know Tullus is on the way. Tullus is, you know, in the near future, you know, which both deal with the fantasy genre.
Right.
Do you have anything, how compatible Tullus is going to be with Godforsaken? Or are there any plugins that we have coming for that?
So you would not need Godforsaken to use Tullus, to run a Tullus campaign in the Cypher system, but they would certainly complement each other super, super well. Essentially, you could look at Godforsaken, like if you want to, you could look at it either way, right? You could say, I'm going to run a Tullus campaign. I'm going to get Godforsaken because it's a great supplement to Tullus. Or you could say, I'm going to run a fantasy, you know, I'm going to run fantasy using Godforsaken, and Tullus is a hell of a supplement that I'm going to bring in to run that. Like you could bring those to either way. One book is going to add something to what you do with the other.
Awesome.
Yeah, and of course, Tullus is a much narrower topic in that it's one city, but on the flip side, it's, you know, as I'm sure you guys are aware, it's 672 pages. It's literally this thick. The original weighs 6+ pounds, and this is being made actually to a slightly heavier, like maybe a few grams heavier, in the sense that we've added a few things to the handout packet, but it's the same page count. So it's going to be, if anything, just an iota heavier. But it, you know, it treats its topic in, you know, it just in super depth, right? The city of Tullus is just tons of material on that city, you know, culture and hundreds of locations and hundreds of NPCs and you know, stuff to buy and stuff to do and places to go and factions to interact with and people to interact with. It's just it's incredibly massive.
And the catacombs underneath.
The Tullus book is actually bigger now than the previous one?
like an iota. Like I think that we, so the page count is the same.
Used to begin with, Charles.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's the same page count. And then inside the back cover, there's a packet of like handouts and poster maps and character sheets and stuff like that. And we're making that packet a little bit thicker, right? So it's all the same except the packet got a tiny bit bigger by about I don't know, 10 or 12 pages.
How is the Trollus project running now, though? How's, I know with the pandemic, it was probably really difficult dealing with printers and everything, but how is the project on schedule?
It is. Our principal print vendor, which operates out of Canada, was closed for a while in the spring, but is open now. And the book doesn't go to press for another 8 weeks still, something like that. I can't remember the exact amount, but it's still a little ways away. So we anticipate they'll be open then. Like we have print time scheduled. Everything's already lined up. So we are on schedule for a street date that would be in early April. The backers would be getting it late March, which was 100% on schedule with our original plan and promises to the backers.
That's awesome to hear because everybody's excited for that.
Well, that's going to be perfect because I'm getting ready to start my fantasy campaign anyway, and then Tolus will be that big city. I'm going to make Tolus like the Nexus. It's going to be like a plain walking Nexus city.
Yeah, but watch out because once your players go in, they might never come out, man. That city's got everything.
Yeah, it could be.
Yeah. No, we're.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Charles.
I was just gonna say we're super looking forward to it, and it's coming along. It's in layout now, so it's Bear's baby. It's in his hands, and laying out 2 672-page books at the same time with very complex layouts. Sort of an interesting factoid. You know how our books, you open them up and you've got sort of the main column, and then you've got a call outs with maybe there's a word that's in the text is in color, and then there's a call out that talks about it, maybe a page reference that cross references to another page. That was all pioneered in Tolus. Tolus was the first place a game book used that, and that was Monte's idea for how to make a 672-page book usable, right? Like how are we going to make it so that it isn't just too like a telephone book, too dense for any human being to possibly navigate? And that was a big part of how we did that. And so that's something we've carried through to all of MCG's books, ever since, because it's great innovation. But there's a lot of work making all that stuff correct, in layout.
Oh, cannot
we
wait.
Definitely know the book is in good hands because Bear is great at what he does.
He certainly is. Yeah.
You guys recently announced an expanded partnership with Roll20. Can you explain to our audience what exactly that entails, and do you plan to make MCG's products available to other virtual tabletop platforms?
So that's a great question. We have had a relationship with Roll20 for a number of years, and some of our products are available on Roll20, but not the full breadth of our adventure products. And that's the part that's kind of a shame. So like you could go in there, you get the Dark Spiral for the Strange, and the entire adventure path's in there, and all the resources you need. Our decks are available, a number of other things, but 90% of our adventure content is not on Roll20 or any platform. We went with Roll20 because back in the day, it was the one that, when we began that relationship, and I want to be super clear, this is not a partnership in a business sense. We just have a really good relationship with them. But we looked at the different platforms, and the one that seemed to suit what people did with Cypher System the best was Roll20. It had a relatively simple interface. It was not as focused on building very, very crunchy character sheets, which and very complex creature stat blocks and things like that. It was more focused on, here's your tabletop. You get to see each other and talk and have these ancillary capabilities. Now, as time has gone on, we've seen, Astral and the Foundry and, a variety of other tabletops come to the fore alongside Roll20 that I think have very similar philosophies in how they go about things. So I think expanding to others sounds great. It's a matter of, what resources we have to make that happen. However, once you do it for one and sort of build up the resources, you take a given adventure, you break out all of the maps. You make sure that it has all the maps that it needs for a VTT experience. You figure out how you're going to make tokens for all the things, and all the rest of the stuff you have to do. Once you've done that work, it's easier to do it for a second platform. So I can't make any promises here because I just don't have those plans in place yet. But the thing that we rolled out in the Kickstarter last week, I guess it was, is that we've been working with Roll20 to better understand how we can do a better job with all of our products, and we're going to start immediately, hopefully within weeks, rolling out new adventures on Roll20. I'm careful with those words. Not new adventures that are new to Roll20. Taking our existing adventures and bringing them to the Roll20 platform with all the content that they need to make it a good experience. And then, of course, the other commitment we made is that everything that comes out from this Kickstarter will move very quickly to Roll20. Now, and it could be, you could probably tack the words and other VTTs shortly thereafter to almost anything I'm saying at this point. But there's an awful lot of expertise you have to build to make that happen. And, you know, we're 10 people, right? We're doing the best we can. We have a crew that...
Some people don't seem to understand that, but it's a process, especially when you're learning a whole new format. A lot of these, they use different languages. A lot, it's not just as simple as, hey, take my stuff, print it up, and put it on the platform.
Right.
So I definitely feel you on that.
Right. And I'm also going to throw out this other caveat, because the response that many people will have, because we get this quite a bit of it, is, well, I'll do it for you. But that requires pretty much just as much knowledge to manage that process as it does to do it. So while there are fans out there who are very proficient in the various platforms and have come to us and said, I've done a lot of work, or I would like to do that work to do it, doesn't mean that necessarily makes it significantly easier for us to make that happen. So anyway, yeah.
It definitely makes a lot of sense because you definitely want to have not control, like let's say someone came to you and wants to do it, but you want to know how the process is going so you can gauge time, like deadlines and whatnot. It's definitely more intricate than, hey, I can do this for you.
Right, for sure. Right, yeah. It like, on some tabletops, you look at their feature set, right, and somebody could do something that if you don't know that tabletop environment, you go into it and you would say, wow, you've done a great job, I love what you've done here. And the users could be like, they haven't done this, the other thing. And then you're like, I didn't even know you could do that in this environment.
Exactly.
Right? So, yeah. So it's a project, but we're in it. We're committed because, like everybody else, we're playing our games online, right? We've always had games that we played internally among the whole crew. And since we've got people in Seattle and here in Kansas City and Chicago and Philadelphia, that's going to be virtual. But, I ran my game last night with it's Bear plays in it, Tammy plays in it, and then 2 or 3 other people that are not with the company. And this is a group that's been gaming in person for 4 or 5 years at least, but not the last year, not 2020. It's been all virtual. So like we're in the same boat as everybody else, and we all want the experience to be as good as it can be.
I'm a little selfish. Roll20 is my platform of choice, so I'm pretty lucky.
Well, it's funny that you say that because I've just started like branching out and getting my skills together, and I kind of like Foundry. My son gave it to me for my birthday this year, and I'm learning stuff. Right. And that's literally what it is. Is literally once you start learning it, you're going to find your place of comfortability. Right. Anthony is like really good with Roll20. He gets his images in there, his music, all that kind of stuff. I've started learning how to make maps. Everything just kind of comes together, because of the era we live in. So
right.
Got to be patient.
Yep. And I've been in sort of the same boat, Dean, where like I have a moderate amount of experience on Roll20. I do use it when I use a VTT, but mostly we run our games on Zoom and keep a Slack channel open to play out handouts or roll dice or chat or something like that. Right. So and then like you, I've started looking at what would I do if I was on a different platform. And I've looked at the Foundry, I've looked at Astral and a couple of the others.
Right. I think the biggest thing though people really want, and I tell you, you've done a great job with that, our character sheets. If you can have virtual character sheets, life is good.
Yeah, for sure.
100% accurate, and it's nice to have so many options in this age where this year, this time, with all the stuff going on, to play these games digitally, so you can kind of find what fits your needs the best. But along with the Roll20 announcement, you guys have been doing a whole bunch of announcements, Kickstarters, all this stuff. But your staff has been growing as well. You've recently had 2 new hires to the company, and sorry if I butcher the names. Terry Litorco, and Latia Bryant.
Yep.
Can you tell us a little bit about what their roles are at the company, and do you guys plan to expand further, maybe hire some more people?
Right. Okay. So Latia's been with us for 5 or 6 weeks, I guess, and she's stepped pretty much right into the role that Darcy left when Darcy moved on to some other pretty cool opportunities. So Latia handles our community, which means, means social media. It means you guys. It means asset team, but it also means like retailers, right? And trade events and things like that. So there's a number of different components to it. And Latia's fantastic. We're really excited to have her on board. Actually, both Latia and Terry are both fantastic. Terry joined us, I guess it's only been about a week now. And she steps in as managing editor. And Shauna has been the managing editor since MCG was founded in 2012. And almost as long, she's been like, I wish I could just write games and not be the managing editor. So I don't want to put any words in her mouth. She's super good at it, and she really is, without a question, single-handedly responsible for establishing the company's standards for the editorial quality of our product. But she's for a long time sort of thought that she'd rather be spending more of her time doing some other things. And so bringing on a new managing editor is something that we've been considering for a long time. And we even have occasionally put out some feelers, but just the time wasn't right. And then we decided to make that happen this fall. We had an enormous number of applications. Terry comes to us after some time at Renegade, but prior to that, probably most cogent to this was her experience at Geek and Sundry, where she was managing editor. So she knows her stuff just inside and out, and she's fantastic new face on the team. But it is kind of weird because we've always been a virtual company, right? So Zoom, as we're doing here on Zoom, it's a very familiar environment to us. We've been using it for years, and we've always had sort of this like Brady Bunch layout, right? Where like for a long time we had 9 people, and now we've got 10. So it's like a Brady Bunch with a little.
Amazing.
You gotta get used to that new layout.
Right, Josh, and I agree with you, Josh. Josh is sitting in the chat, and he has only problem using Roll20 is the API for the dice roller. I agree.
That was actually Joan.
Oh, I'm sorry, Joanne.
Joanne, sorry. Oh my God, it's like he's butchering.
Yes, we hate it.
I hate myself. Okay.
You know what? I might be the outlier here, but when I play online, whether it's in Roll20 or Slack or whatever, I have my dice with me and I just roll the dice, right? Like I've always preferred that to, hitting a button or typing in a macro or whatever.
Oh yeah, I agree. I mean, I'm just saying but the API on Roll20 is horrid. It's painfully horrid.
I think it doesn't matter. I think if you're unlucky, whether you roll a regular dice or using the API, it's the same. You know what it is? Dean is just an unlucky roller to begin with. And he's trying to blame Roll20.
No, I'm not. I'm not that bad.
There's a little dice rolling macro for Slack, and that's what a lot of my players use in my game. And last night, Brian set it up to roll 100 D20s, and he got an average of like 9.98 or something like that. And he was like, okay. My players were lobbying to get an automatic +1 to every roll result. I'm like, yeah, I think so.
I remember back in the days we used to run games on Google Hangout, and they had the API dice roller, and I never rolled higher than like a 7 on the D20, and I swore that it was the dice roller, because everyone else would get 17, 18, 19 out. Here I go. 4.
Yeah. You can't see anything. You roll 5 20s in a row on my game on
Roll20.
Yeah.
That dice roller's a mess. That's all I'm gonna say.
All right. So last year, Yeah, last year's virtual Gen Con, you guys announced the third-party partnership using MCG licenses like Title Blades, Pandemonium Noir,
Mhm.
uh, Diamond Throne. Do you know how
Mhm.
those projects are progressing? Do you plan to work with other third-party companies to produce more Cypher content?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great question. First of all, let me ask you guys, have you got any of you guys seen the Title Blades game? Have you played it?
No, I really want to
I
though.
What, the
want it.
board game?
Oh wait, the board game or the yeah? That's what I mean. I haven't played either, but
I actually happen to have it sitting here,
oh,
so I'm going to
this
go
guy's
ahead
gonna
and
whip it out. Let's see
yeah.
it.
Oh my God. We're talking black cube type of heavy, right? It's like a 12 pounds and it's a giant coffee
Oh
box that is
wow.
fully packed. It is heavy. It's a really, really neat game. Um, yeah, it just came out. So that's Title Blades. In case anybody's wondering, what's this Title Blades thing? That's Title Blades. Very lore rich. The book, the Kickstarter edition came with a hardcover book. This is a
Oh,
board
Oh
game. It
man.
came with a hardcover book full of art and lore.
that I need to ask my board game friends if they picked this one up so I can see what they say about it because I have a couple of friends who are like super duper into board games, like they kickstart ones and they'll kickstart at high levels. Like they kickstarted, I think Calico, some cat one, and they backed it at a high enough level to get their cat in the game. So like I'm wondering if like they've picked this one up because I really like value their opinion on board games and stuff. I have a feeling they might have.
Right. Well, as far as licensed stuff goes, Title Blades is a special beast, right? Because that's not actually a license per se. That's a partnership with us and Skybound. And Shauna actually is writing, or just about done writing, the RPG that goes with this. So my understanding, and I don't want to step on anybody's toes by saying something that's not true here, but my understanding is that this coming summer, they will kickstart because you can see the board game and the books as part one, right? Like right off the bat, it's not even all of the lore, right? It's just part one of it. So they will be kickstarting the sequel game to it, and as part of that Kickstarter, they will also have available the role playing game, which they will publish under their logo, right? But we will have done everything else to it. So I lie because all of this beautiful artwork is done by a team, a Canadian team. I believe they're a husband-wife team who came up with all the lore and do all of the art. So they're doing all of the art, but Shauna's doing all of the writing, and we are also doing everything else: the editing, the layout, everything. Bear will lay it out and whatnot. So we take it all the way to the point where if it was our book, we would send it to the printer. Instead, we send it to them, and they send it to the printer. So that's a unique situation because it is a partnership between the two companies where we're working together on it. It's not a license in the strictest sense of a conventional license. The other things you mentioned, Diamond Throne kickstarted in the this past fall. Looks just spectacular, really really nice. So as far as I know, that's on their track. Diamond Throne, again, for people who don't know it, is like Tallis, is a setting of Monte's from the third edition era of D&D, and he has licensed the Diamond Throne setting to Weird, who publishes our products in Italy, and they're producing that. They licensed the setting from Monte and the Cypher system from us, and they're going to produce the whole thing as a Cypher system product, both in English and Italian. The Pandemonium Noir, which is sort of which is one in a series of Weird Tales based RPGs. They did launch a Kickstarter, but they withdrew the Kickstarter in the last fall. So I don't have any update on their plans at this time. That would be something that they'd have to announce.
I will
I
say,
know Alex is planning to bring it back, but all three of those projects look phenomenal.
Yeah.
Title Blades, the artwork is fantastic, and
Really
I want to play Turtle People, so they had me at that like 5 seconds into the introduction.
And Diamond Throne was probably one of my most favorite 3.5 things that Monte. That and Iron Heroes were my two favorite things that Monte did back in those days.
Yeah.
But and with Pandemonium Noir, I was actually super duper excited about that. I was so disappointed when they withdrew the Kickstarter because I actually I'm not a big reader or anything. If any regulars I don't read or watch stuff, but I actually listened to the audiobook for Dead Jack and the Pandemonium device. Oh my god, it is so good. And I think the second book is coming out on audiobook very shortly. I believe pre-orders are available or something, but oh man, I really want to see that cipher book. Like just the amount of stuff you could do in that setting, it's
Right.
so cool.
Right. Yeah, it is a really, really neat and very colorful setting. So, yeah, we're also looking forward to that one as well.
You know, this has been a horrible year. I'll flat out say it. 2020 could end soon enough. So how's it been running a company in the middle of a global pandemic? I know it has to be hard. Has it affected your business operations in any way?
So it absolutely has. The biggest impacts were in the spring when, as I mentioned, like our print vendor in Canada was shut down for a while. Transit issues were very significant. Transit issues are still significant for freight. Um, that lots of things sort of as supply chain stuff, and then also the outbound supply chain, right? Distributors were shut down, stores were shut down. So all of that obviously had a pretty big effect on us. Now, as we've all seen, in most places are not in as thorough a lockdown through the rest of 2020 as they were back in, say, April. Um, so the sales channel has mostly revived itself, and then the channel by which we get products made is mostly revived. Moving freight around is still problematic, especially stuff coming from China. But other than that, it's not too bad. There's still issues. We have always worked from home, right? Like, as I said earlier, like we're scattered across North America. Terry is now our first Canadian employee. She's in Ontario. So we have people all over the place, and that's the way we've always done business. So our internal operations are largely unaffected, except of course by the psychology of such a dark and difficult time that is just emotionally draining for almost everybody, right? So that's been the case. We've been very fortunate. We've not had anybody ill at the company. We don't have anybody in our circle who has had family members, lives threatened by COVID or anything related to COVID. So we're fortunate in that regard as well. Um, uh, yeah, and one thing about the game industry is that games are something people come to in times of trouble, right? So like I was in the game industry in 2008 when the economy was in bad shape. Games were not, right. They didn't soar, but when people are feeling wary about going and dropping $120 to take a family of four to the movies, they might feel better about spending $40 on a board game that they know that they can use not just tonight, but every Thursday night for the foreseeable future. So games tend to do okay in tough economic times, and so our business has been
That's a great
uncertain and scary. It's difficult times for everybody, but fortunately nothing bad, no crises.
That's a great point that I didn't take into account. I was thinking it more on the lines of the convention circuit, which is a big networking, and also I would assume it's a big portion of sales. And to have all those conventions canceled for a whole year.
Yeah, that is it's a significant sales loss, but not overall. It's not huge, right? It's well under 10% of what we do in terms of sales. So we can weather that pretty easily. It is a bit harder from the marketing perspective. Like we reach so many people through going to Gen Con or any significantly sized consumer show, and then of course we also do trade events, right? We go to the major distributor open houses, the Gamma Trade Show, and so on. And we didn't do any of that in 2020. A little bit was done virtually. Some of the trade events were virtual. Probably about a tenth as effective as a personal one. Also, probably only about tenth as expensive because you're not sending people on airplanes to stay in expensive hotels or giving them having to eat hotel food and all that sort of stuff. So a lot cheaper, but you get what you pay for. So yeah, it's a factor, but it's not a crucial factor yet. I think it's the kind of thing that could really slow the industry down if it went on for years and years and years. But missing a year of these events, we can probably weather that okay.
Your gut feeling, do you think we'll get cons next year? If you had to guess right now?
The best advice is saying that probably things will be approaching normal in third quarter of next year. And where does Gen Con fall? Right in the middle of third quarter, right? So like, which side of the line is it going to land on? I don't know. I certainly, I would not, I will not send any of my staff any place if they are not already vaccinated, right? Like that's just sort of our policy, right? Nobody's going to be asked to travel if there is not a widely available vaccine and they don't have it. So like, I can't imagine that'll be the case. A middle class guy in a non-essential services sector of the economy. I'm not out there saving anybody's life. I'm not putting my life on the line working in a nursing home or a prison or a hospital or doing anything else where these, the major hot spots. I'm not involved in the supply chain for food or anything critical to the American infrastructure. So I'm probably like at the end of the line for the vaccine, right? So I can't imagine that we would be going to a lot of events in March or April, but I don't know, August? Maybe.
I miss Gen Con. I miss hanging with all the Cypher heads.
For sure.
Facts. And real quick, we do have a couple of questions from the audience right now. But I just want to mention that we will take some questions once we're done with our main line of questioning. So if you do have questions, feel free to throw them in the chat. We'll ask them in a couple more questions, hour-based questions, I mean. But real quick, since this is kind of relevant to what we're talking about at the moment, Irish Mercury asks, I know a lot of creatives are having a hard time over 2020. How do you guys mitigate that?
Wow. So that is such a tough question because I think that the answer varies, from person to person. I don't know. I mean, some of us, I think, find sort of routine and normalcy at work to be an escape from the constant barrage of uncertainty and chaos and bad news in the rest of our lives. I think some of us look at it as, doing what we can to help, right? If we can bring something to people that brings them. I don't want to put any words in anybody else's mouth, but I think that I think Shauna had mentioned that the fact that We Are All Mad Here came out this year and lots of people were saying good things about it, it sort of recharged the batteries a little bit. So I think that yeah, I wish I had a magic bullet for that one. But I think that we all go about our own ways. And I do agree. It's hard on everybody. But I think that it is true that people that kind of, they make their living by their muse, right? Like they're having wonderful ideas is what puts food on their table and frankly, food on the table for the rest of us who work in a creative company. It can be really hard when that muse is getting, routinely beaten up by bullies on the corner.
Oh, I think the one thing though that I think that everybody's kind of seeing is that the whole ideology has evolved over the course of this year. Mm-hmm. People that you could never get on an online game are online gamers now. Right. I think companies have started to realize that there's something to be said for sponsoring, online events and things like that. So I think that we're seeing a very good evolution, and we'll probably see like a combination of two, the in-person aspects versus the online aspects over the course of the next couple of years. Mm-hmm. I think we're all learning.
Right, for sure. A change in attitude and also a change in competency, right? So when you look at what Gen Con did with their online convention, right? Like they tried a bunch of stuff and some of it worked better than other parts. And, like they developed an infrastructure to run an online con that on a scale that I don't think existed at any place prior to that, right?
Exactly.
Oh, yeah, definitely a time for some innovation.
Right, for sure.
But we've talked about these upcoming projects, but they've all been Cypher focused. Can you tell us about any upcoming plans for any future Numenera projects, if there are any?
Nope.
Charles, we had to try. Right. Can't blame us for trying.
Yeah, I just love the way
he just nope.
Yeah. I mean, I hate to be kind of flippant about it, right? But like, if you follow our Kickstarters, you know our news as far out as we're able to say about anything, right?
Gotcha.
You kind of know. So we have Numenera products, that are stretching out through the bulk of 2021. I don't have my schedule right in front of me, so I can't be looking at it. But there are, Sean was just talking about Vertices the other day that he's working on, and Break the Horizon is going into editing and stuff. So I mean, we've got products slated through the bulk of 2021, and then we'll probably need to kickstart some more at some point.
So
you can't blame us for trying to slip that one in there, Pastor. We might get lucky.
You know how we do. All right, so Charles, with that being said, with the holidays fast approaching, if you could have the perfect gift for Monte Cooke Games, what would it be? And what is the best gift you ever received personally for the holidays?
Oh, Lordy. Wow. Oh, you may have stumped me there. I don't know. My head's not in the right space to go through a Rolodex of like all the gifts that come up. I'm afraid to say, because what'll happen is I'll come up with something. I'll be like, I loved it when I got blah, blah. And then Tammy will be like, what about this other thing? And I'll be, oh yeah, I totally meant to say that.
Okay, so
I'm sorry. Gosh. So what would be the perfect gift for MCG? Whew, that's a tough one. I don't know. Our community is so good to us all the time. We are really very fortunate to have such a fantastic and supportive community. We very, very rarely have issues with, I don't know. I mean, just, you guys all know what the gaming world is like, right? There's people out there who have opinions that they're maybe a little too fond of, and that don't run, that can run counter to other people's opinions, and people have views that are sometimes can be odious and whatnot. And there are not very many of those people in the game world, but they can really poison the pool. And we fortunately do not have very much of that in our community. And like, do not think for a moment that goes unnoticed or unappreciated by the MCG crew. We are hyper aware of that. And so I think that's the thing we love the most, right? So more of that. And then, like anybody else, I would just like 2020 to be over.
There's a few more weeks.
Right. Well, Charles, all I got to say is this one thing. You know what? The one gift that you keep giving us that we really dig is that you guys keep coming on. You guys listen to our shows. You listen to us.
Yeah,
we get, and, you guys support the CU. So it's really good that, so thanks a lot.
Not only, regardless if you listen to us or not, you listen to your fans. Which
so that's what I'm saying.
Really
Yeah,
important. Yeah. Like your guys. I've never seen a company that responds to every message board, Facebook, our server, no matter where it is. Your guys are so in tune with your core base fan base. It's it's incredible, and it works the other way around too. I think your fans, that doesn't go unnoticed. You know what I mean?
It's
the same way you would say you don't, your friends definitely are aware of how, how supportive you are to your community. And we're appreciative of that as well.
100%. And before we move on to the questions from the audience, the reason I was laughing just now is because you were mentioning it was the best gift from Monte Games. You said it's a very heartfelt thing, but in my head I'm thinking, what if we got them all like those giant inflatable T-Rex costumes? Like that, I think that's the perfect gift for all of MCG. Just get every single person one of those inflatable dinosaur T-Rex outfits. Next,
we take a video.
You could not be in the background with an ugly sweater. Like, you better say this is your favorite gift.
But either way, let's move on to some questions from the audience before we move on to our real deep questions that we always end with.
Read the one from. I put one in the notes that was asked today from the server.
All right, give me 1 second before I jump into that
again.
one. Yeah, that's exactly what I was gonna do, because they asked that really early.
Okay, so Raz again, he said he tuned in late. But is there any chance to get the Cypher System Best 3 afterwards, maybe through a new Kickstarter or otherwise, if it doesn't make it, this on this?
Yeah, I mean, is there any chance that would happen? Absolutely, there's a chance that would happen. We would love to make that book, but a stretch goal is a stretch goal, right? Like these, we don't. These are not arbitrary marketing choices. That's literally like this is how much money we need to make another book, and so I think that if it doesn't get made from this Kickstarter, then absolutely we would look for other opportunities to put it in someplace. But there are other things that we want to kickstart too, and not just Cypher System supplements, right? So where that would fall in the queue is kind of hard to predict at this time.
First of all, I refuse to accept that we're not going to reach the stretch goal. So
that's all I'm
not
saying.
accepting defeat to
drop that link again.
72 hours after
I asked that guy's question. I said nothing about defeat.
No, and what you call it? That I blanked on what I was gonna say, but I can.
I'll ask.
I was just gonna move on to the next question.
From the chat.
Yeah, go for it.
He asked, let me see where I put it here.
I got it. I'll ask.
Yeah.
So we got a question from James from the Cypher Unlimited Discord, and he asked if you guys are going to make a slipcase for the new Cypher books or even the last new genre books that just came out. Like, the Stay Alive, Stars of Fire, so on and so forth.
Yeah. So if there's a set of books that was thinking it would look good in a slipcase, it would be those white genre books. On the flip side, like, I don't, again, this fits in the category of not making any promises or not trying to even imply anything, right? But like, I wouldn't mind if someday there was a post-apocalyptic white book, right? That's my favorite genre. I think there's people out there who would love to see a cyberpunk white book, right? So like the idea that this 5th book is rounding out the series forever, I'm not sure we want to put a bookend on it just yet. None of this is anything even vaguely related to a promise or a projection. I'm just saying that we made the 4, right? And with the Your Best Game Ever Kickstarter, and there were 4 that kind of went together thematically and how they the form factor and everything like that. But then we looked at that and said, well, there's room for more, right? And I would say I wouldn't want to do anything that sort of says there's not room for any more.
Well, only thing I'd say is if you do those, just somehow throw the prints in of those covers, because I want a print of that cover for Claim the Sky.
Oh, about how you can get one for Claim the Sky, right?
Yeah.
You know about that. Okay, good. Just a little secret for backers of the first 4 books.
Oh.
You guys got any other questions? I think there's one from Chris.
Yeah, I got it. So one of his questions was answered already by Josh in the chat itself, so I'm gonna skip that one. It's a pretty straightforward answer. But the other question is, how does one get established as a solid enough content creator to earn advanced looks at MCG material? And this is from Gonda Gaming / Christopher Robin Negline. I always mispronounce his last name.
Yeah, so I think he's referring to the Cypher System Creator Program and how we basically announced that when we rolled out a bunch of new permissions for that and new resources and whatnot, that we were also going to, in advance, provide permissions for Claim the Sky and First Responders in the Origin, and that we would give established publishers access to those a little bit on the early side, so that if they wanted to create compatible products, they could create them closer to the launch of the books. Our plan as it currently stands is that for content creators that have already created content, at the time we start doing that, we will make that offer to them. Basically, to sort of say, if you are interested and have a plan to make a product that's compatible, let us know. Let us know, and we can do it. Now, to be super clear, this is not going to be like you get all the inside information starting 9 months in advance. This is probably more like when we send the book to press, we can make an early release PDF copy available to you, whatever, 4, 6, 7 weeks in advance, something like that. But yeah, the idea is that we want to provide more support for those creators so that they can, take advantage of when things are like when Claim the Sky comes out. That period following that is going to be when people are most excited about, third-party superhero products. Just like I would imagine at the time when people are most excited about third-party fantasy products for Cypher is probably now through when Talos comes out and maybe another 6 months after that. Like that's probably the hot sweet spot for that type of content. So, helping creators be able to put out stuff for that in that sweet spot is something we'd like to do.
Oh, we also forgot to mention something earlier. You recently announced you changing your shipping policies for the EU, and was there something about that for England and EU?
Yeah, so it's actually
it kind of directly relates to the Kickstarter.
Right. So, and that was something we rolled out, I guess, yesterday, the official week. This is actually something we've been working on for like, I don't know, like 12 or 15 weeks, right? But like to finally nail down the final official, like, absolutely this will happen to allow us to announce it didn't happen until more recently. So we announced it yesterday. And it's not actually a change in policy at all. What it is a reassurance that the policy is not going to change because our books to the EU ship out of the UK. And currently, the UK is part of the EU, but that ends on the 31st of December with Brexit. And in a perfect world, there'd be no Brexit. In a slightly closer to perfect world, they would have worked out all the details of Brexit would have been solved and resolved, and the treaties would be signed, and everything had been done, and that would have happened 6 months ago. In the world we live in 2020, we are 3 weeks away from the end of the year, and nobody knows anything about what's going to happen. So literally, nobody knows. But what we've done is we have made sure that if there are duties and fees that are going to be due on products that ship from England to a customer in France or Germany or Italy or where have you, that we will make sure that we pay for those duties and fees so that when somebody orders something from us, they go online, they order it, or they're fulfilling their Kickstarter, and they pay their shipping, the book shows up, and without this reassurance, the book could show up on the door, and the postal carrier could be like, okay, sign here, and I need, 32 euros to cover your duties, right? And that's just a surprise to that poor guy. What we've basically said is we've managed to set it up so that we can guarantee that we will pay those duties before the package leaves to get shipped to those people, and then
I mean that's also. I know a lot of our members worry about costs. Not only with MCG but with all the American gaming companies.
Sure.
It becomes a very costly hobby for them. So that's
right.
awesome news.
Right. And I think that probably I'm speaking to the converted. I don't have to tell anybody this, but it's worth mentioning every single time this comes up. Like, we don't have any control over that. We do our best. I swear, I promise you, but there is nothing we can do when a package leaves our warehouse, when we put it on the loading dock at the shipping company or USPS or wherever. We do not control how fast it goes. We don't control where it goes. We don't control if the person scans it. We don't control what the cost is. We just can't control it. We do our best. Yeah.
And it's really appreciated.
I know that everybody watching this knows that, but what we're saying.
But I think that was one of the last questions from the audience.
Somebody wrote Invisible Sun 2 with a question mark.
Cube 2.0?
No.
Are they done with Invisible Sun 1 already?
Good answer.
Yeah, that's a great answer.
I don't think if you're done with the Invisible Sun, you're special.
Right. Yeah, I play in ongoing Bear Runs, our Invisible Sun campaign, which we play in regularly. Tammy and I both play in, and love the heck out of it. And I don't know, we're 1% of Saturnine, let alone the rest.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I mean, with the Threshold book just coming out, I'm like, God,
Yeah.
So I think we can transition on to our next part. Anthony, if you want to lead us into that.
Yeah. This is our rapid fire questions. Here's where we dig deep into your soul. We pull out your essence and stretch it out for the whole world to see. But since you did our regular rapid fire questions, we decided to switch it up a bit. These are going to be superhero sort of related.
Okay.
A little fantasy related, a little pop culture related.
Okay.
It's a quick one-word answer, or you can elaborate as far as you want to go. But we'll let Al ask the first question.
All right.
You ready?
Yeah.
And here we go. Drum roll. Marvel or DC?
Yeah, totally Marvel. I got no room in my life for dark and gritty these days. I need something uplifting.
Good answer.
Superhero or supervillain?
Supervillain, and my base is going to be a giant derelict aircraft carrier.
Oh, nice.
All right.
As someone who works on an aircraft carrier, I can relate. If you had one superpower, what would it be?
Oh lordy. It would be the ability to shift us back on the correct timeline.
Oh, good answer. Good answer. So, cape or no cape?
Totally no cape, right? Like think of what Isadora Duncan, right? Like the whole thing about like at the end of the Incredibles, like getting sucked into the jet engine by the like that's real, right? That actually happened, right? So no cape.
Secret identity or let the whole world know.
Oh man, let that flag fly, baby.
You want to be that superhero with 1,000 lawsuits.
Right, but you know.
Sidekick or no sidekick?
Ooh, that's a good one. I'm tempted to say no sidekick, but I guess it kind of depends on who the sidekick is, right?
Good answer.
I don't know, like a giant Great Dane that can kind of sort of speak. That'd be kind of cool.
Marmaduke. It's Marmaduke.
But next one here is spellbook or broadsword.
Oh crap! Oh man. Yeah, rogue man. What can I say? Like neither.
Oh, the third option.
Nice.
Good answer. Good answer.
Yeah.
If you had to choose to escape from a natural disaster, which one would it be?
That's such a rough question.
To escape from a natural disaster. Well, I
first
think it would have to be a
responder
kaiju invasion or a zombie apocalypse, right?
Nice.
Ooh.
Good one.
Nice.
And here's our last question. Favorite holiday movie?
No, that's too hard. Like I can't give you one. So here's what's been on the docket so far. Just so far, we've done The Thing. We've done Arthur Christmas. That's a pretty good favorite in this house. You know, all that technology. We've done The Night Before, so you can see there's a bit of an irreverent side to it there. We'll get Die Hard in there. We like A Christmas Story. That's an old favorite. Scrooge is a pretty good one. Like I could just go down. The whole genre is pretty popular in the Ryan household.
Awesome.
Christmas Story is one of my favorite movies, and my brother's name is Ralphie, so I would always be like, Ralphie, shoot your eye out.
Awesome. That's awesome. You know, when I've many a time it's come up in a role-playing game, like where your character is put on the spot, right? And like you have to make something up, like you're caught doing something, and you're like, who are you? And you have to make something up. And I've always like my go-to answer, my name's Ralphie Schwartz, right? Which is like basically two names from that movie put together.
Nice.
Nice.
Oh, I think you survived our rapid fire questions.
Right.
Second time around, I think. Yeah. Oh, but this has been an outstanding talk. Thank you so much for coming on and speaking with us.
Thanks for having me.
We learned a lot of cool stuff about the upcoming things. You know, Tullus, God Forsaken, or, you know, that it's out, but it's like how you can tie it into Tullus. All the Heroes of Cypher stuff, all very exciting stuff. So excited for these books. Is there any last things you want to say to our crew here before we sign off? Like, how can we reach you online, or how can we see more from Monte Cooke Games online, that sort of thing? I have a few links here posted, but anything else would be appreciated, or, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I think that probably your audience knows how to get to us. You know, mcg.com, MonteCookeGames.com is the great starting point. Our Facebook page is a place where people talk a lot. I'm guessing that everybody watches this doesn't need another reminder from me that the Kickstarter is going to end at the end of this week. I suspect that most people watching this know that, are pretty aware of that. Yeah, come by any of those places, say hi. Of course, at Monte Cooke Games on Twitter, Instagram is the same. So, you know, any of those environments.
Charles isn't going to remind you, but I will. There's 44 hours to go, so please back the Kickstarter if you haven't already. You guys know when you back at the everything level, you basically get 4 to 1 on your dollar. So please go. Even currently, right now, you're looking at 5 products for $100 or so. That's 3 full books. Where can you find that? If you did the math, it's about $30 a book. You're not going to find a complete gaming book for that price. So please, please go and back the Kickstarter. You know, even if the Heroes is not for you, First Responders will be. So I can't scream it out loud enough. And Charles, thanks again for coming back on. You know, we really appreciate not only everything you do for us, but everything you do for the community. And
thank you.
We really appreciate
Absolutely. It. And you know, and Tammy, tell Tammy she has to come back too now. We miss Tammy.
I will do. Absolutely. I'd be happy to be on.
All right, thanks, guys. Thanks, Charles.
Thank you guys very much.
And Anthony?
Yeah, if you like us and you like what we do, you know, please give us a little donation. You can follow us on Twitch, follow us on YouTube, like, share, and subscribe on YouTube videos. Go to our merch store, pick up some of this cool Cypher Unlimited gear, right? Or give us a donation on Ko-fi. But like we said, our videos are always free. You don't have to do any of that stuff. Just stop by and chat with us and say hi, and we'll appreciate that as well.
Yeah. Dean, any last words?
I said everything I had to say. You know, I'm gonna go geek out some more and think about superhero games I'm gonna build and run and write. I'm writing now. It's community content.
But yes, and just for me, it's been a fantastic talk. Thank you so much again, Charles, for coming on. So excited about all the upcoming stuff. Thank you everybody in the audience for watching. The video will be up on YouTube for anyone who have missed it. It'll be up tomorrow. And yeah, you know, from us at the CU, we will see you later.